Awesome. We've looked at time invariance. We've looked at linearity. Now we get to two last properties. The first is causality. So a causal system is one where we don't look into the future, basically. The current output y only depends on past and present inputs x. So formally, that means xk for k smaller or less than equal to n. Just concretely, if I'm predicting the output at time step 10, then that output should only depend on samples from x for 10 and less. 9, 8, or minus infinity, that's fine. But you're not allowed to look into the future. So if I'm trying to predict y10, you can't look at x11 in order to predict that. Okay? If that happens, then you've got a non-causal system, which formally says that the current output depends on some inputs that will only happen in the future. Okay? So I'm looking at y10, and that depends on x11, and 11 is greater than 10. Basically, I'm looking into the future in order to figure out what's happening. And I've mentioned this before, non-causal systems, it sounds a little bit weird, right? It sounds like in practice, in real life, you will never have non-causal systems, but that's not true because, for example, if I'm processing a song, I'm filtering a song, and I've stored that whole song, and I'm doing this in an offline manner where I have the whole song, and I'm looking at what the output of my filter should be at time step 10. Then I can actually look, oh, what's happening at sample 11, 12, 13, 14 into the future of the song because I've recorded the whole song. And that's perfectly reasonable if I want to filter as accurately as possible. I always think about predictive typing. If I type into my phone and I type something like, I really had a good, okay, and a causal system, basically a causal autocomplete system, wants to predict what's going to be the next word that Herman is trying to type. I really had a good, okay, maybe day is a good option or something like that. And that system can only look at what I've typed before and in order to make the next prediction. Okay, so, but let's say it says I really had a good, and I accidentally type breakfast, okay, we type breakfast in bed yesterday, okay, which didn't happen. I was up at 3:30 with my kids, but okay, that's beside the point. But let's say I accidentally make a spelling mistake in this word, but I type the rest of the sentence. And then I go back and I click on that word and are trying to look for a replacement. Then when my keyboard on my phone tells me, oh, this is a good prediction for this word, then the keyboard can actually look into the future. It can see, oh, he typed in bed yesterday, so that should probably be breakfast and not, I don't know, beer. Okay, maybe that's also a bad example, but you get the point. So the system can look into the future. And that's a non-causal system. A system that will only look at these words when trying to make that prediction, that's a causal system. That example went on for way too long. Mathematically, let's just look at two examples. So let's say we've got a yn, which is equal to some past output, n minus 1 plus xn. This is actually our accumulator from before. Is this a causal system or not? Yes, it is a causal system. This is causal because it's only looking at current inputs and what happened in the past. Okay, this is actually a past output, but it's still causal. Okay, let's look at another example. And obviously, you know that this will be a non-causal system because I wouldn't show you two causal examples. That would be stupid. Okay, but this system, is it causal or not causal? It's non-causal because if I'm trying to predict what happens at y3, then I need to look at x6, and x6 is in the future. Current output is at time step 3. I'm having to look at what happens at time step 6, so this is a non-causal system. Awesome, that's causality. The last characteristic that we will look at is bounded input, bounded output stability, BIBO, okay? And formally that just means if my input is bounded, it's some finite number. Basically, if the input doesn't have amplitudes, that's infinity for all n, so across the entire input, then my output should also be bounded. There should be some upper limit to my output, okay? And that is a BIBO system, bounded input, bounded output. Okay, so here's an example to just make this concrete, is the accumulator, which is actually a perfectly reasonable system. Okay, we're adding up x from the beginning of time up to the current time step. Is that Bibo stable? Yes or no? Okay, so let's take a stupid input. Let's say xn is our step function that we had before. Okay, so xn is 0, 0, 0, and then 1, 1, 1, 1, and so on. This is the value 1. Okay, so is this a bounded input? Yes, it's bounded. It never has an amplitude higher than 1. Okay, so it's a bounded input. Is the output bounded of the accumulator? So yn for this input, what is the output? It's 0 here, it's 0 here, it's 0 here, and then we start to accumulate. So at sample 1, it will have the value 1. At sample 2, it will have the value 2. At sample 3, it will have the value 3, and so on. So what's going to happen is that as we go to infinity, yn will actually go to infinity as well. Okay, and this means that there isn't actually some upper bound to the output for this input. Okay, which means that this thing is not Bibo stable, because this needs to be true for any signal. Okay, so if we have an input that's bounded, then the output should also be bounded. And if that's true, then this thing is Bibo stable. Okay, that's it for like characterizing systems, at least for now. We've looked at these things a little bit theoretically, and hopefully in the next videos it will become clear why these things are actually important and why we want to know about causality and stability, about whether things are linear or time invariant, especially when we want to design or characterize systems.